that's not anything negative on them.
Mm-hmm.
It was just really the direction I wanted to take my own life. And so I knew that in order for me to get from point A to point B, I couldn't carry all that baggage with me.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
There will still be
The journey. The journey.
new sheriff in town, and his name is
The journey.
Journey.
This thing is bigger than Nino Brown. This is
The journey. The journey.
What is it that moved you?
The journey. The journey. The journey. The journey.
Welcome back to another episode of The Journey. I'm your host, Larry Robinson, and today we have a Memphis icon by way of Marion, by way of Clarksdale. But before we get to him, we got a real cool quote from the greatest tennis player in history, maybe the baddest female athlete in all of history. And it goes like this: I am lucky that whatever fear I have inside of me, my desire to win is always stronger. Well, guess what? This brother, Dee Brown, really is that quote personified. He's a winner, a straight winner, documentarian, show host, entrepreneur, visionary. The brother bad, but let me give a little bit more, because if you haven't heard anything else, you should hear achievement. So you know he's one of my brothers, a brother Kappa Alpha Psi. He's also a husband and a father. So without further ado, we have Brother Dee Brown.
Larry,
What's
thank
up,
you,
D?
man.
How
Thanks
you
for having the
doing,
show.
man?
Yeah, man, I'm doing great.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Well, you sound like it. You sound like $1 million, man. I'm listening to all of these stories. I'm like, wow, I got to do more. I thought getting up at 4 o'clock was good enough. Now I got to get up at 3 o'clock.
Hey, look, sometimes you only need 2 hours to make it.
There you go. There you go. All right, now. So first, let me tell you, take us back.
Okay.
Your earliest childhood memory. Tell me about your house. Tell me about the community.
Sure. Grew up in a small town, Clarksdale, Mississippi.
Clarksdale.
Yeah,
All right.
You know, very
good food down there.
Good food, good blues, but really a very impoverished community.
Okay.
Raised mostly by my mom with the assistance of her mother and father, who were my grandparents. And my grandmother died when I was in the 6th grade.
Okay.
But, nice community. You know, I didn't realize the challenges that my parents or my mom and my grandfather faced.
Okay.
I thought it was just ordinary childhood. So,
Okay.
you know, we always had what we needed.
Who's in the household?
So my grandfather, grandmother,
Okay.
my uncle,
Okay.
my mom, my brother, myself. So
Okay.
6 of us in a 2-bedroom home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
okay.
you know, so we
Now we're gonna get you to unpack it on the second segment.
Absolutely.
But I want to ask you another one.
Yeah.
Who outside of that nucleus impacted young D the most?
You know, interestingly enough, I really was not conscious of. I felt like I was just kind of living in life up until
really?
about the 6th grade.
About 6th grade.
In 6th grade, I didn't do well on a standardized achievement test,
Okay.
and so I ended up in the reading lab.
Okay.
And so that experience, I just remember I was so embarrassed because I realized that I wasn't on the same level as my peers.
Right.
And so every day I would have to leave and go to this special class,
Right.
you know, and I just remember being humiliated. And so I also remember a teacher referring to me as just being, you know, a mediocre student.
Right.
While talking to another teacher, they knew my mom,
Mhm.
and they asked what type of student I was. And so I just remember those feelings. And so after the 6th grade, I began to take, you know, achievement seriously.
Okay.
And from there, my life took a different trajectory.
Okay. No one outside of that family that you can point to that said, "Come on, young D, I got you. Let me show you the way. Let me point you out
So I would
path
tell you,
to go."
never to that extent, but I will say I had an uncle, and I was about 19 years old. I was in college,
Right.
and my uncle wanted to be in real estate.
Okay.
And so one summer, he started to take me around with him to all these different meetings, and I realized quickly, I said, my uncle don't know anything about real estate. Like, he wants to be in real estate, but he doesn't understand it.
Right.
And so by this point, I'm kind of really into academics, into learning.
Right.
And my uncle told me, he said, look, he had 600 acres of land.
Okay.
He said, you can do anything you want to do with this land to make money except sell it. He said, and you can use that money to help you, you know, be part of what I'm trying to do.
Right.
So I don't know where the idea came from. Maybe I saw a sign on the side of the road, but I ended up selling the lumber
Okay.
I sold all the trees on the land.
Wow.
And made, I don't know, it was $10,000-$15,000, a lot of money for someone my age, especially we're talking about the early 90s as well.
Right.
And so I enrolled in real estate school.
Okay.
Became a licensed real estate broker.
Okay.
And really, at that point, I realized that after going through all that, I realized my uncle really didn't have what it take to do the projects that he was trying to do.
Right.
Had the desire, but he just wasn't positioned right. So I actually took and just said, you know what? I'm just going to go into real estate.
Okay.
And so with one semester left in college, I left college and went into real estate.
You left college with one semester
with one
left?
semester. When I went back and finished my degree, I went back one semester.
Wow.
And finished my degree, and I got into real estate. And
well, hold on. We got to go a second. Okay. He's rolling. What decision did you make as a young person? And I think I already know this, that you made as a young person that ended up having a lifelong impact, even though you didn't know it at the time, but it had an impact on you.
So I think my decision to play football in junior high school and high school probably had the most significant impact on my life, because through playing that sport, I learned some very critical things that I was able to carry forward with me later in life.
So that's how you got to Memphis playing football?
Well, actually, I opted for academic scholarship versus an athletic scholarship. So I played in.
So you went from a mediocre student to then getting an academic scholarship.
Having the highest GPA of any athlete in the school, being in the top 1% of my class, and I scored high enough on the ACT to leave high school a year early if I wanted to, but I stayed because of my commitment to football.
So listen, now you listen to this. The brother was tabbed as somebody who was a mediocre student, that he wasn't no good. They cast him off. But guess what? He said, nah, I'm better than that. So don't let nobody define you. So back to you.
Yeah, so football, though, it taught me how to deal with defeat.
Right.
It taught me commitment and dedication.
Okay.
I had an experience my 10th grade year. So every year I played football, I always started. I was always a starter.
Right.
And I was always one of the strongest kids, or the strongest kid on the team. I was bench pressing 365 pounds, weighing 175 pounds.
Okay.
And I remember my 10th grade year, a coach recruited me to go to a different school, told me I wasn't going to lose my eligibility by going to the school, and I went to the school and lost my eligibility. So I was really pissed off with him. So I went back to my main high school and said, if I'm gonna sit this year out, I'm gonna sit out, here with this school. And so the next year, I was third string because I couldn't play, in any of the games because I wasn't eligible. But I practiced with them. So my very first day of practice, that was the first time I realized that in life, in order to really stand out, you got to be different. Like I realized that ordinary people always finish at the back of the line.
Right.
So first day of practice, when they called third string defense out there, outside linebacker, we had on helmet, T-shirt, and shorts. And I decided that I'm going to clock every play that come my way. I'm clocking just like we full gear. And that's what I did. I clocked everything that came my way. I act like I had on full gear. And when I came back to the second practice, I was on first string.
Oh, wow. Listen, hold on. When did you know you was going to be okay? At what point in your life could you look in the mirror and say, I got this?
I would say early in life, in high school.
High school?
Yeah. So I always had some unique characteristics that I recognized were not normal characteristics. For example, my senior year in high school, I had a little car that my mom had bought me.
Right.
And I wanted a new car for graduation. And so I was leaving school one day and I saw the car on the showroom floor. And I'm senior in high school, no job, insurance not even in my name.
Right.
I went to the car dealership, negotiated the deal on that car, called the banker that had the loan on the car I was driving and said, all I need you to do is one thing. Can you make this monthly payment the same as what my mama's already paying for this car?
Right.
And I traded in. And he did it. And I left the showroom floor with that car. My mama didn't know anything about it.
Wow.
When my mama came home, she saw the car in the driveway. It was a Geo Tracker, 1990 Geo Tracker. She said, who truck is this? I said, yeah, we need to talk about that. And I said, see, this is my graduation gift. All you got to do is go down to the bank and sign the papers. Everything's already done. And she told me, she said she really went to the bank to prove that I was lying, which she said was uncharacteristic of me, but it didn't make sense to her that they would give a kid a brand new car. And she went to the bank, and she said she really didn't want to make me look bad at that point.
Wow.
So she went inside the paper.
I told you this brother was different. He's a bad boy. He's a winner. So listen, last question.
Okay.
Most brothers that I know have that moment in their life when they realize that they are different and happen to be that they're different and they're black. Is there a moment that you can point to where you said, man, I'm black? Hold on. Listen, we're going to be right back on the journey where Brother D is going to share with us when he realized he was a brother. Stay right there. This is The Journey on the Kudzukian Network.
The Boys of Color Conference is here again.
The Gentlemen's League and The Journey are hosting the Boys of Color Conference right here in Memphis, Tennessee at Agri Center International.
Parents, send your young men in grades 3 through 12 on Saturday, March 29th for a day of learning, inspiration, and mentoring. From coding to boxing to cooking, there's something for everyone.
Empower your son to dream bigger, achieve greater, and break barriers. Watch him take the first step toward a brighter future.
Register at thegentsleague.org.
Boys of Color Conference, March 29th at Agri Center International. Welcome back to The Journey. I'm your host, Larry Robinson, and today we have Brother Dee Brown, straight out of Clarksdale, Mississippi. Now he's living over in Marion, but he's got a strong influence and relationship with Memphis, spent a lot of time in Memphis doing business, office in Memphis, actually. So listen, I know what I asked you before we went to break, but I got to ask you another question first.
Okay.
What's Dee's superpower? What's that thing that you can do better than anybody you've met?
I think it's probably the vision.
Really?
Yeah, I think the vision, once it comes to me.
Okay.
And when I see it, I can make it happen.
Really?
I don't always know how.
Okay.
It may not always be instant, but it's to the point to where it's somewhat scary.
Okay.
But once I kind of get a vision and I start thinking about it.
When did you realize that?
Probably, I would say probably in my late 30s.
Okay.
Yeah, probably my late 30s before I really realized that. Now, there were things I did that demonstrated that.
Right.
But sometimes you do things and you're not really conscious of what you did in that moment. Like the car story, right? I wasn't conscious in that moment that I'm 18 years old, no job, no insurance, no proof of insurance, no nothing. And I went and got a brand new car.
Wow.
And so in that moment, I just was doing it.
Okay.
But later in life, I started to realize, like, wait a minute, it's something, it's something here.
What was your nickname? You had to have a nickname back in the day. What was your nickname, bro?
Man, I didn't have a nickname.
You didn't have a nickname? Shoot, hey, man, you making things happen, bro. You made things happen. It's got to be a part of your history because I'm thinking like, okay, you did this in high school, but man, you've been doing this the whole time.
The whole time. And when I was in college, I was the worship master of a Masonic lodge, ran the lodge while I was in college and never thought about the fact that I was 18, 19 years old running the whole, Masonic organization.
There was no other frat for you to choose other than Kappa Alpha Psi.
That's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. In every field of human endeavor.
Every field. So let's go back. What was that moment you realized you was a black man?
So there are two stages of that story for me. So the first time I really realized that, I was in high school.
Okay.
And so, Clarksdale, Mississippi, the students had separate proms. White kids had a prom, black kids had a prom. And I was conscious of that fact.
Right.
But football player, hung out with the white kids. I consider us all to be friends. I was the class president. Wow. And so when I organized senior skip day, I just automatically assumed I'm leader on the football team, leader in the school, everybody would participate.
Right.
And none of the white kids came. None of my white classmates showed up for senior skip day. And when we came back the next day at school, they had organized their own senior skip day and they skipped the day after us. And so that was the first time I really realized, like, whoa, this thing is really I'm like,
they didn't even want to take a day off with you.
They didn't want to take a day off with you.
That sounds like Martin Luther King holiday.
Right. And so, so now, fast forward, you have experiences in life.
Right.
I remember, going to the bank trying to do a transaction.
Right.
And I was actually doing it in the transaction on an account that had a small amount of money in it.
Right.
And the lady in the window was giving me the blues. I was trying to tell her, like, hey, I do this all the time.
Okay.
And she wouldn't, she's like,
wasn't going.
Yeah, she wasn't going. So I said, I tell you what you do then. I said, punch in this account number right here. I said, now give me all that out in cash. And she looked at me. She said, hold on 1 minute. Then she ran from the window. She came back. I just talked to the man. She know you. I'm so sorry, Mr. Brown. She know you. But it was like a whole different story.
Right.
And
Right.
so even now, to this very day, at 52 years old, I still have those moments.
Right.
Black guy on a yacht in South Florida. People automatically think you're chartering it.
Right.
They don't think it's yours. Or they see you, in certain situations, they think that you're going to be concerned about the price.
Right.
You got to be concerned about the price. Like, this costs, this amount.
Right.
They're trying to.
Right.
And I'm like, it's
well,
cool.
you know what this costs now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you still see those things, and you say, or people have a conversation with you and tell you, they'll insinuate in the conversation that they know your financial condition.
Right.
We don't have money for stuff like that. Make a generalized statement.
I got
so you still see it every day.
Okay.
But what I've learned is that now I know better when I want to deal with that type of attitude.
Right.
And also when I walk away from it and leave them thinking whatever they want to think.
So you're walking down the street, Memphis, Tennessee. Guy runs across the street, sees you and says, man, you're walking awfully tall. Who are you? What would you say?
Well, my typical description it's a complicated one,
Okay.
but I typically start off with letting people know that I'm, I'm Dee Brown, but I'm a real estate developer.
Okay.
So that's always, so when people think about real estate, a lot of times they think about houses and smaller type transactions. Right. So then I have to try to explain that I do public-private partnerships. So most of our transactions are, 10 million up kind of transactions, and they're typically with government and large nonprofit organizations where we're developing projects for them. But I also get into the fact that, I'm also a talk show host for PBS, and I'm a member of the Producers Guild, one of the 3 to 4% of African-American members of their organization, and that I also own a streaming platform. I own a tequila, I own a clothing line. So you had to, and so I always forget something.
Right.
I always forget something. But most people are pretty intrigued by, I guess, the number of things I have my hands in, especially at the level.
Shoot, I know I am. I'm like, brother, you in so much. I'm like, shoot, when do you sleep?
It's very organized.
I got you. What's your early memories of school? I mean, you shared a little bit, but who were some of your boys, and what did they contribute to young D?
Interestingly, a lot of the friends I had when I was younger were not as close as we were then. I do still have a handful of friends from school that we are still tight. But, earliest memories was just really, being close with a lot of guys who were just economically were in the same situation.
Right.
You had people that were doing, better than others. But for the most part, we all were still kind of boxed into a certain economic situation.
Right.
And so I just remember having a lot of fun times and hanging out and things of that nature. And so as I became older, around that 19, 20 year age range, I began to kind of back away from a lot of just hanging out and going to the clubs and doing all those things. I became very serious.
Right.
So because by the time I'm 21 years old, I'm full-fledged in real estate on my own. And I decided to make a decision to leave college with one semester left. And it only took me 3 years to finish college.
Right.
And I decided to leave with one semester left. And I didn't have a backup plan. Like I was not from the type of family that if I didn't make it, I was going to have it easy. You know, my mom could help me some. She was a nurse by this time.
Right.
But still, with her income, me being an adult, there was just some constraints that I was going to have. So I had to become serious early.
So is it safe to say that you had to leave some folks behind?
that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And that's not anything negative on them.
Mm-hmm.
It was just really the direction I wanted to take my own life. And so I knew that in order for me to get from point A to point B, I couldn't carry all that baggage with me.
So I want to make sure that the viewers and listeners understand that's a major point.
It's a major point.
At some point in life, in order to, if you got a vision, how I put it, everybody can't go. So you got to understand that there's going to be a time in your life that you might have to leave some folks behind in order for you to achieve what you want to achieve. Would you agree with that?
Oh, it's 100% true.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, it's almost like being in a life or death situation, which I was in one time in college, where I was on a boat. I was doing an internship for the summer at a mental health program with at-risk kids,
Right.
and we were on the boat. The boat sunk, and there was a gentleman on the boat that couldn't swim, and some of the other people weren't strong swimmers. But I took a lifeguard class in college that taught me you can flip a boat upside down and it'll float.
Right.
And we flipped it upside down. We put the people on the boat, and we put them on a tree that was in the middle of the lake.
Right.
And then the two strongest swimmers, myself and another guy, we swam to the shore,
Okay.
ran around the lake, and when it got help, we came back and got them.
Right.
Sometimes you have to leave people
Right.
and come back and get them.
Oh, that's beautiful right there. That's beautiful. Tell me, you transition into adulthood. You started doing a lot of things. You had the real estate. But when did you feel like, I'm an adult now, I got to take care of myself?
Oh, that's when I made that decision to leave college at about 20 years old.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I knew. That was it.
Really?
There was no backup plan.
What did Mom say when you said you
my,
were doing?
my mom thought I was crazy. You got to understand, I'm from a small town
Right.
in Mississippi, and the thing that they know is you go to college, you get an education, you come back home or go wherever you're going to go, and you get a job. And
Right.
that's what you do.
Right.
So when I said I wasn't going to finish college right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to go into real estate, it made no sense to them, because there was nobody in our community that they could look at and say, well, this guy did that and he's very successful, so it's a good idea.
Right.
And then the amount of houses that, say, me as an individual, that I would sell in a year at that time
Right.
was more than the total houses sold in my community
Wow.
altogether, right?
Wow.
So it didn't make any sense to them.
Right.
And then when I made that decision, the company that I went to work for, the owner of the company taught me at Memphis State in real estate school.
Right.
And he didn't believe in me based on, it wasn't anything, I was the only black person in that office, but he decided to take a chance on me.
Right.
And he told me, he said,
What was his name?
Paul Turner.
Paul Turner.
Yeah.
Shout out to Paul Turner.
And Paul said that he didn't think that I would be very successful based on the way that I answered the questions when he interviewed me.
Okay.
And, real estate is a sink or swim business. You
Right.
eat what you kill, right?
Right.
There's no check every week.
Right.
But Paul was just being honest. He wasn't being, throwing in the shade, but he said, you know what, I'm still going to give you a shot. And I was the only African-American in that office, and I became the top salesperson within a matter of a few months. Wow. And 4 years later, I went back and bought Paul's company, and Paul came to work for me.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And so that was one of those things where I just knew at that moment when I had my oldest child was on the way. She was going to be born months later, and I didn't have a backup plan. So I had to be a man at that point.
I wanted to ask you about that. When did you look across the room and see that woman that you said, you know what, that's her. I'm gonna spend the rest of my life with her.
Well, I've been married more than one time.
Oh, okay. So you had that a couple times. Well, let's talk about the last one.
Okay.
Okay. So what about that last person? Because I know you got a lot going on. So, and I know sometimes that's a challenge for some young ladies. So how did you, at what point made this person be that person who was going to stick with you, or that you wanted to stick with you?
Well, I think, now this is a thing that I've just observed just in life.
Okay.
All right. So a person can't be successful. A man can't be successful unless the person that they're with, they have to be aligned in terms of what it takes for you to achieve success at the highest level.
Right.
So I see so many friends of mine who are in relationships where their spouse want them to be at a certain level, but they don't want them to make the commitment that's required to get to that level.
Okay.
And so sometimes it's a disconnect. And I'm
Right.
not saying it's a good thing or bad thing,
Right.
but it depends on where you are in terms of your own personal ambition.
Right.
If you're saying, hey, I want to take this thing all the way to the moon, well, you got to have somebody willing to put their backpack on and go to the moon with you.
Right.
If you are okay with just being, the average person or, somewhere in between,
Right.
that's not a bad thing, but you can't go to the moon if you don't have anybody willing
You
to
got
go
somebody holding you down.
Yeah, so-
Okay. All right. What role did Memphis play in Dee's life and in Dee's person?
Well, I think that Memphis taught me how to deal with a larger environment,
Okay.
more people.
Right.
Coming from a small town, everybody know each other. Memphis introduced me to people I didn't know. It actually brought me out my shell in terms of not being shy and timid,
Okay.
especially when it comes to business.
Wait a minute, hold on, bro. Ain't nothing shy and timid about you. The brother that went to the car lot, made a car deal at 18. When did shy and timid even become a part of your personality?
Now listen, that's very interesting because for a long time, I only performed when the lights were bright, when I had to.
Okay.
So if it was a situation where nothing was going
I'm
on,
call you Rondo.
if nothing was going on, then I'm like withdrawn from the situation.
Okay.
But then when the lights come on, and it's that I'm going to be the biggest talker.
Okay.
And I'm to a large extent, I'm still like that.
Okay.
Like, I'm not shy. I'm not afraid to be in front of a camera. I'm not afraid to be in front of a crowd. But if it's just nothing going on,
Right.
I'm happy being to myself.
Okay. All right, we're gonna take you back to Clarksdale. Today we going back to Clarksdale. Me and you, we gonna take this trip. We talk and ride. We get to that old house that you was raised in. We open the door. You walk in the door. Wait a minute. You see a kid sitting there at the table eating a bowl of cereal. It's young D. What would you say to young D?
I think if I was to have a conversation with young D, I think I would tell him all the things that I've tried to instill in my own kids,
Okay.
which is about that never give up attitude, about being able to outwork all your competition, about trying to outthink your competition. And if you can't outthink them by yourself, you get somebody on your team who can help you outthink them.
Right.
All those pointers that I learned in life that I use to get a competitive advantage on people. How to play to your strengths.
Right.
Everyone have strengths and weaknesses. I don't care how successful you are. There are some things that you don't do as well as others. And so play to your strengths. Learn what your strengths are.
Okay.
And play to your strengths and use your strengths to negotiate and navigate to that next level in life. And so, believe it or not, a lot of people don't understand how to do that. And so sometimes that's the barrier between you getting from point A to point B, is that you have a talent, you have a skill, you have a strength, but you don't know how to negotiate it. You don't know how to utilize it to the fullest extent to get to where you want to go.
Okay.
I told one of my sons, who's a very great singer, and and we signed him to my music label. And I told him, I said, "You good? You like what you do? You're really good." I said, "But if you're not busy Sunday, I can ride you around Memphis, and I can let you see all the good singers that sing every Sunday and don't get paid to do it.
Right.
It has to be something else, and you have to realize it though."
Right.
And that's the dangers of social media and all the access that we have to information now. A lot of times it'll lead you to believe, especially younger people,
Right.
that they can do or that they know things that they don't really know.
Right.
And they don't understand how to take what they do know and pair it with someone that got the other side of the coin covered for them and use that to get to the next level.
All right. Last question, last statement, actually. There's a lot of young boys that are watching, listening to you right now. I want you to talk to them directly in that camera and leave them with a Dee Brownism, something that they can hold on to from this moment.
I think that if I had to leave something with a young person, I would leave what I always talk about in terms of mindset. Everything that you do, everything that you can achieve, everything that you can be, everything you want to be, it starts with a mindset. And so if a person is able to change the way they think, they can change their life. And so I always tell people that it's like a plant, right? A plant can't grow in contaminated soil. It has to have good soil. And so is it with everything we do as human beings. Our mind, that's the soil, that fertile soil that lead to all of our successes, to all of our achievements, to all of our accomplishments. And so changing the mindset is first critical thing. The second thing would be commitment, understanding what commitment is and what commitment look like. So many times I see young people wanting to start a business or wanting to do things in life, but they can't put in the work and the time and the sweat equity to achieve it. And so I think if you can have the commitment and the mindset, you can do anything you want to do in life.
A winning mindset. That's what I heard. And I hope you heard that too. Hey, I'm Larry Robinson. For our guest, Brother Dee Brown.
Thank you for having me, Larry.
Keep coming back. We're going to keep bringing these icons that's going to help you navigate along your journey. Till next time, take care.
Thank you to our partner, the Grand Boulé of Sigma Pi Phi Fraternity, Delta Chapter. To hear more incredible stories like this, be sure to download the Kudzukian app from the App Store or Google Play, or check out the Journey Memphis podcast on all your major podcast providers. Also, check us out on the Kudzukian Network.